It's confession time, live to the pub, into the saloon bar, where producer Susie's working very hard.
Yeah, very hard.
Yes, very
hot.
And what is our drink of the day?
Well, I was going to go for something exciting, like a slushy machine. We've been talking about getting a slushy machine for the pub, which would be quite fun.
Okay.
However, I think probably just water would be your best bet.
Okay.
Or, if Matt's insistent, maybe a pint of lager with a top of lemonade rather than a shandy. How about that?
Yeah, I'm going along with that. Better than water. I'm not going to the pub for water.
Well, you can have water
your best
as well.
water, please.
That's delicious.
Oh, just the water for
It's
me.
safety first.
That's true. So today's confession has been discussed at a committee meeting. Today's confession comes from Buster the Blowhard. And here's the warning that goes before it. Certain views and opinions in this confession reflect the views of a bygone era.
Right.
That era being the Dark Ages.
Right. Understood.
Simon, I need your help, says Buster the Blowhard, for reasons that will become obvious. Yeah, you do, Buster, but you're not getting it. I need to take you back to the early 80s. I was the proud owner of a vintage Triumph Dolomite Sprint. You know, the one, deep crimson paintwork with a black vinyl roof. Back in the day, one of the fastest production cars on the road. Dolly, as I called her, was my pride and joy. Matt's head's already sinking.
Right.
As I lived in the Fens at the time, there were plenty of long, straight roads where I could really let Dolly go. Although, being a responsible driver, once the vibrations through the steering wheel made the wheel impossible to hold, I would take my foot off the accelerator a bit. I've toned this down, all right?
Okay.
I had to drive about 20 miles a day to get to work, and there was one particular long, straight stretch of road where Dolly was in her element. The road was usually empty, but every Wednesday there was a young lady learner driver who had a tendency to get in my way. This didn't cause much of a problem, as I could usually sail past, leaving the young lady driver trailing in my wake. One particular Wednesday, however, there was a problem. A stream of fairground lorries were on the other side of the road, driving very slowly towards me. In the distance, I noticed my learner driver. I rapidly caught up with her, but I couldn't get past. So I sat about 2 feet from her bumper, headlights on full beam, revving the accelerator. Exactly. Eventually, the oncoming traffic cleared, and I was able to fly past the learner, leaving her trailing in a wake which smell of burning rubber and exhaust fumes. I just had time to look in the rear-view mirror and saw the young lady exit her car in floods of tears. Oh well, the incident was soon forgotten because I never saw her again.
Right. Okay.
I now need to fast forward to the present day, says Buster the Blowhard. The intervening years have been good to me. I married a very attractive girl. We produced 2 lovely daughters. Unfortunately, neither of them wants to work. So both have stayed on at university to get their master's degrees. I therefore have no money. My wife, we'll call her Mandy, has a girly night every month. This seems to involve Mandy and her friends lounging around the house, moaning about their husbands. Can't imagine why. Or boyfriends,
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
whilst emptying the contents of my drinks cabinet. Every paragraph.
My drink.
My
cabinet.
drinks, yeah.
And at about 10 p.m, having downed their second bottle of gin, they seem to play a game called See Who Can Talk the Loudest. My sole function on these evenings is to sit in the study and then make copious amounts of black coffee in order to get the coven sober enough to walk to the door when, quotes, their long-suffering menfolk come to collect them.
I think it's the other way round.
This particular evening last April, I hadn't quite shut the study door, so I could hear the raucous goings-on in the lounge. Most of the conversation was irrelevant, as usual, but they then started talking... about driving.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Mandy was making herself heard above the general din. That's my wife, you remember. Not her real name.
No.
To hush tones in the room, she told a story of how she'd been driven off the road by a young maniac in a red car with a black vinyl roof on the morning of her driving test. She failed her test and hadn't got back behind the steering wheel for 40 years. Listening to this in the study, something stirred at the back of my brain, and visions of Dolly the Triumph and the young learner driver came flooding back. Then reality hit. Simon, I had unknowingly married that learner driver. When I regained my composure, I realised that I now had a conundrum. I soon realised that there was only one course of action open to me, so I silently opened the study door and said nothing. And that is how things have remained.
Oh, no.
In my defence, I feel as though I've already suffered because of my earlier misdemeanour.
Wrong.
The past 40 years, I've always...
Definitely wrong.
Past 40 years, I've had to always drive whenever we go anywhere, whilst Mandy has managed to drink away to her heart's content.
That's right.
I feel that it's now time for my confession to be heard. And so I'm asking for forgiveness from you and the assembled collective. And then he says in brackets, if you could assemble an all-male collective, I might have more chance. I leave you more in hope than expectation. I tell you, Buster the Blowhard, we did have a committee meeting because clearly everything in that is so utterly reprehensible, but I thought people might like to hear it. Anyway, what's interesting is that apparently Mandy still doesn't realise that she has married the person that drove her off the road in the first place, Sister Susie from the pub.
Buster, I don't know what I can say to this. Never come to my pub because you're not welcome. He can get in the bin. That was just really rude. He was really rude to the learner driver in the first place, and he was really rude to all his wife and all her friends. And I hope if Mandy ever does find out, she does leave you because you deserve it. I'm sorry, Buster. Not forgiven. And Matt better not forgive either.
I think that's it. Well, you know what he's like.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think there's much danger. Also,
I don't think I can forgive Matt if he doesn't forgive.
Also, how rude about his daughters. Anyway.
Yeah. Don't appear to be interested in working.
Yes, exactly. So they're doing their masters. Anyway.
Well, Buster's a real catch, isn't he? Form an orderly queue there, ladies. I'm obviously not going to forget. I mean, even I, with the morals of a sewer rat, can't find anything to redeem him there. I mean, reap what you sow there, sunshine. Unlucky. So, yes, I'm afraid unforgiven.
I think Mandy must have known, surely, what kind of guy she was. Anyway.
Well, hang on now. We're not going to suddenly come down on that.
No. Anyway, so it's the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Buster the Blowhard? The answer is no.
No.
And you can text no. 61054. First word is Simon. 61054. First word is Simon. People's forgiveness. What is the people's verdict? That's what we need. Drive time, 12 minutes past 6. Hello, good. Live till 7. Just before the news, we had a confession from the Dark Ages, courtesy of Buster the Blowhard. A shocking tale. Was very rude to a woman who was learning to drive, and then he didn't realise, but 40 years later, he did realise that he'd actually married her. And the reason that he wants forgiveness is because he thinks he's already served his time because he's had to drive all the things for 40 years. I don't know what we've got. I'm slightly nervous, but anyway, here's the people's verdict.
Is overwhelmingly not forgiven. Okay. Norma in Cardiff, what a horrible person. Never forgiven, ever. Hughie in Ipswich, definitely not forgiven, but one of the best confessions ever. Absolutely brilliant. I'm crying here. Shona in Stirling, absolutely not forgiven. We were all going to sack Matt if he forgave. David says, forgiven, but only in the vain hope that I'm the only one that does forgive and therefore get my name read out on the radio. Poor reason, I know.
Yes, very poor reason. So I think not forgiven, and we'd quite like to give the smart speaker to Mandy, if that's okay.
Please.
If that's all right. So your confession, maybe it's a driving test confession, maybe it's a summer confession, maybe it's a beach confession, whatever tale you'd like us to tell. If we use it, you get a smart speaker. Send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Confession time is right here, right now, live in the saloon bar. Producer Susie there with her feet probably in a bowl of water, a couple of pints poured.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I wish.
No? What's our drink of the day?
Well, it is National Daiquiri Day, so you could have another daiquiri, which would be lovely.
You just made that up. It's not
I
national.
haven't. It's National Daiquiri Day.
Really? Oh, okay. I've never had one, so I suppose...
International, actually. International Daiquiri Day. There you go.
Well, it would have to be, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. We'll have two. How much would that cost me at your place?
You can get two for £10.
Oh, just the tenner? Oh, right.
Okay,
Fine.
all right. Very good. So, with a daiquiri in hand, or daiquiri in hand, what do we do? Is it daiquiri? Daiquiri.
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 Daiquiri. The mouse runner.
Yeah.
Tonight's confession comes from Babs. Babs, thank you very much indeed. A little summer number coming here. His Eminence, hello. His Eminence, the Right Religious Father Simon, the Judgment Crew, Super Righteous Sister Susie, and big, kind-hearted Brother Matthew.
Yep.
come on. I've always enjoyed listening to the guilty admissions of confessions of an evening, and I've never thought that I had any reason to write in until my daughter reminded me of an episode that occurred around 15 years ago whilst entertaining friends with a barbecue one glorious summer's evening. The setting was a small hamlet in the Cotswolds. Very twee and very quaint it was. One hot sunny weekend, much the same as the weather we're having at the moment, hence it jogging my memory. We had neighbours and friends, along with family, all enjoying the evening, eating burgers and sausages, swallowed down with the odd pims, as you do. One of the women in attendance, Gloria, lived about half a mile outside the village on a farm. She referred to us as the villagers and had delusions of grandeur, thinking herself above everybody. She was, says Babs, a right snobby toff.
Okay.
It's snobby toff time.
Wow.
Okay.
I was surprised when Gloria decided to come along, as we didn't usually get an acknowledgement to our invitations. Anyway, she turned up. Typically, she only wanted to play one-upmanship, boasting about what concerts and plays she'd been to recently, or at the opera, how she'd been to an exclusive boutique in Cheltenham.
Yeah.
You know, the type of place you need an appointment to enter, with have security guards outside. Anyway, she'd gone and she'd bought the most darling dress.
Oh, had she?
Anyway, after nibbling molecules of my husband's barbecue culinary expertise and sitting on the edge of conversations, passing judgment, it was time for dessert. And of course, Gloria was also a, in her eyes, Michelin-starred chef. The pressure on me was intense because my husband always did the cremation of the meat on the barbecue, so it was always my role to provide a sumptuous dessert. Whilst the party was going on in the garden, I looked at the catering-sized raspberry cheesecake that I had bought from the catering wholesalers, and I realised that she would see through all this, and she'd probably elaborate by saying that she always makes her own cheesecake by milking one of her own Guernsey cows.
Obviously.
And she then hand churns the cream cheese before picking her own fresh raspberries after making her own digestive biscuits, then crushing them with her thighs for the base. So the pressure was on. Is that how you do that?
I'm not sure it is.
So I decanted the dessert from the box into one of my best serving plates. I put a sprig of mint on it, sprinkled it with icing sugar to make it look a bit more personal, and then I poured cream into a jug to disguise it from being identified as Elmley. It was then my daughter came in and said, "What the heck are you doing to that poor cheesecake?" After telling her my cunning plan, she creased up laughing and said, "Good one, Mum, I can't wait to see how this goes." Armed with dessert and cream, with smirking daughter coming behind with plates and cutlery, I slice up and pass around the delicious cheesecake to my waiting friends, family, and Gloria. It is met with silence, always a good sign that the food is being troughed, until Gloria says, "Oh my goodness, this cheesecake is incredible."
Oh my goodness.
"Where did you buy it?" "Buy it," I say. No, I didn't buy it. I made it." Gloria looks at me studiously, trying to suss me out. I sit, attempting a relaxed nonchalance whilst my heart is thudding like a scared rabbit. Gloria asks where the recipe is from and could I send her a copy of the recipe because she's not tasted such a good homemade cheesecake before. "No," I say, "I'm sorry, it's a family recipe. It's been passed down from mother to daughter for generations, originating with my great-great-grandmama Agatha Teasdale, and I then extemporise for a few modern flourishes and all that. At which point my daughter laughs, which is grand, except for the fact she laughs so hard, a massive chunk of cheesecake projects from her gob.
Oh no!
To quote Babs, her guffawying gob, and lands on Gloria's extremely tasteful pastel blouse.
Oh no.
Now with a big blob of raspberry goo soaking into her cleavage. She scowls at my daughter and I pass her a piece of kitchen roll as opposed to family crest embroidered napkins, and I try in vain to stop laughing. Gloria doesn't stay long after this, Father Simon. She makes her excuses about having to leave, saying she must organise herself for the day tomorrow, and thanks husband and me for having such fun, and then flees as if being a released hostage. Needless to say, Gloria didn't attend another barbecue in our back garden for, well, ever again. However, she did make it known to all and sundry and the other manor house owners in the area what a tedious evening she'd had, endured with the locals. No mention of my incredible cheesecake at all. I would like to ask forgiveness from you and your ever so supportive audiophiles for the faux pas in my not mentioning the cheesecake was shop bought, and also for the permanent staining of a perfectly good blouse. However, I do not seek forgiveness from gracious Gloria for reasons that I think are becoming very, very obvious. Very good fade.
I
think
thought
you
so.
tell.
Very smooth.
Excellent.
Thanks for everything you do. Kindest regards to all from Babs. Checking in with the saloon bar. Sister Susie, what'd you say?
Well, Babs, I don't really understand why you invited Gloria in the first place if you didn't really like her. But there she was there. She wasn't very nice, was she?
No.
So I think, who hasn't bought a cake and disguised it as their own? I'm going to forgive you.
Yeah.
Yes, it was the hawking of the massive slice of cheesecake onto her blouse.
Yes.
And I think is the moment here. Brother from another
I mean,
gutter.
yeah, we've all done it. That's it's beginning and end.
You have?
Of course we've all done it. We've
Well, I
all
was
said,
there.
yes.
It was Anna. You did it to Annika Rice. You gobbed on Annika.
I did not gob on Annika Rice.
You did.
Obviously,
I was there.
I would be a monster if as a bit of vol au vent came out and landed on her. And and that was the end of that. And Annika forgave me, and it was all fine. And yes, and I'm going to forgive Babs because apart from the icing sugar on the cheesecake, which feels a bit weird, but Gloria having an appointment to go to the shops feels a little too grand for me, Gloria. So I'm going to forgive.
As soon as we got to the snobby toff, I knew precisely where we were going to
Class
go.
war.
So we would like to have the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Babs, yes or no? On the text 61054, your first word is Simon, or you can email simon@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Forgiveness, it's the people's verdict. It's incoming. Just listen to rainfall, I think, for the rest of the day. On the confession, I was thinking, actually, while I was reading the confession, which took place at a barbecue.
Oh, yes.
I don't want to go to a barbecue for a while.
No.
And a number of people are advising no barbecues today.
Yes.
No barbecues tomorrow. I think it would be good idea just to wait. Anyway, it was about snobby toff, Gloria, who then confronted a shop-bought cheesecake and then actually ended up with some of it hawked onto her from Babs's daughter. Anyway, with hilarious consequences, the people's verdict is in. It's like this.
Everyone's forgiving. Janet in Shaftesbury says, definitely forgiven, still laughing at crushing the digestives between her thighs. And Jeanette
Is that not how everybody does it?
Pretty sure they don't. Jeanette in Dersingham says, of course she's forgiven. I've done it lots of times, though I make a wonderful chocolate cheesecake, if I do say so myself. And finally, Wolfie says, completely and utterly forgiven. We've all had to deal with the likes of Gloria. Hope that the stains never come out of her Chanel blouse.
Yes, well, as you said, you probably got staff to do it for her.
Yeah.
Anyway, your confession would be very welcome. If we use it, we swap it for a smart speaker. Confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. They've been calling in and calling the studio to know what Susie's drink of the day is going to be, because they want to pour something, but they're not quite sure what to have.
It better not be water.
Live to the pub now. It was water yesterday. What are we going to have
Yeah.
today, Suze?
Well, I think it's cooled down now, so I think it's perfect time for an IPA, maybe a pale IPA. There's a brewery in Bristol called Wiper and True. They do one called Kaleidoscope. It is delicious. Get one of
Palms all
those.
round then. Thank you very much. Very good. What's that called again?
Kaleidoscope.
Kaleidoscope. All right. Matt can't have any because he's on a starvey day.
Yeah.
But, get him a double for tomorrow. Tonight's confession in the smart speaker goes to Freddie, who sends in tonight's confession. Takes an unusual turn, this one. Freddie says, hi, Simon. I need to beg forgiveness from you and the amazing collective.
Yep.
Oh.
When I was younger, about 14 or 15, I used to go to the hairdressers to get my hair cut, as opposed to the newsagent.
Yes.
So seemed a sensible thing to do. I went with my parents. Over a period of time, me and my parents had built up a rapport with the owner of said hairdressers and considered him a family friend. Sergio was a kind soul and a talented hairdresser. He was also good value and used a variety of the finest shampoos and conditioners. Italian popular songs filled the shop, and we all learned the words to O Sole Mio, Volare, Nessun Dorma, and a generous selection of hits by Zucchero.
Oh, all of them.
My goodness me. A good haircut combined with a musical education, what more could you ask for? However, sometimes you didn't get Sergio. On one occasion, they had a new person working there who had never seen me before. She was called Gina, and she was fabulously glamorous, with a terrific, heart-stopping smile. So here I am, as usual, waiting to be called up for my haircut. Will it be Sergio or Gina? Who would it be? Traditional glamour? Well, when it was my...
Traditional glamour.
Well, that's like a game show, really.
Yeah.
When it was my turn, Sergio informed me and my parents that I would have to wait for the newbie Gina to become available. This was fine with me. Now, before we go any further,
Okay.
I need to tell you an important fact which sets the scene for this sorry tale. I have a prosthetic right ear. Sergio knew about this, but Gina didn't. My parents said not to say anything, so I didn't say. We assumed, I think, that Sergio would tell her what she needed to know. So when she became free, I went up. I kept quiet. She smiled at me. I smiled back. Hello, she said, I'm Gina. Hello, I said, I'm Freddie. Shall I wash your hair? Yes, please.
Oh, no.
Conditioner, she said. Yes, please.
Oh, no.
So she washed and then dried. Everything was fine.
Okay.
I smiled and she smiled back. As I recall, Dean Martin's That's Amore was now playing on this day.
Of course it was.
All was going well until she went to bend my ear to trim behind it. The thing is, my ear doesn't bend, so instead, it just popped off.
Wow.
Well, you can imagine the scenes.
Oh, no.
Poor Gina shrieked as my ear fell into my lap. A sentence I've never said before.
No.
I quickly popped it back on, but she was trembling like a jelly. She had to sit down for 15 minutes to regain some sort of composure. I can see it from her point of view, but I told her it was fine quite a few times before she was ready to stand up again. She did finish the cut, but I never saw her in there again after that. So no idea if she quit or retired from hairdressing entirely. So I need to beg forgiveness from Gina, the beautiful hairdresser, and hope she continued in the profession somewhere. Every time I hear an Italian song, I am transported back to that hairdressing salon and the day Gina got a little bit of a shock. She probably remembers it to this day. You know what? I think, Freddie, she probably does. She remembers that moment of shock. Extreme shock. Sister Susie, where do you go with this one from Freddie?
Freddie. For me, this one goes down to you should never trust someone else to tell someone something you need them to know. So maybe Sergio should have told him, but it wasn't his responsibility to tell Gina. It was yours and your parents. So, and poor Gina, I can imagine that must have been awful for her. And for that reason, Freddie, I can't forgive you.
Also, if you're going to go and have your hair cut with your parents, you would think somewhere between parents and Sergio and Freddie, they might say, oh, look, by the way,
yes,
you just need to
Just
know.
a heads up.
just before,
I mean, it's perfectly fine and everything, but you just should know. Anyway, brother from another guy.
I have to agree with Susie on that. I mean, that's quite an assumption to think that Sergio would have given her the nod about the false ear. My ear popped off. We haven't had that in a confession for a while. But, you know...
or ever before, actually.
Or indeed at all. But when all of these happen, when they all come together, surely that's... A Miri?
No.
That's a Miri.
No.
A bit like Amore. Almost there. I think definitely forgiven.
Could do with more work,
done.
that one.
No, that definitely works. I'm very happy with that
Okay.
one. Underlining it twice.
So Freddie seems to be forgiven in the studio.
Miri.
Okay, that's fine. What have you taken? Anyway, we would like to know the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Freddie, yes or no, on the text 61054. Make your first word Simon, please. You can email simon@greatesthitsradio.co.uk, but the people's verdict on the text 61054. First word is Simon. Just before the news, we had a confession from Freddie, who went age 14 or so to the barbers, but didn't get the usual barber, got Gina the glamorous barber trainee, but no one, it seems, had told the glamorous trainee that Freddie has a prosthetic ear. And so when she was cutting behind the ear, Freddie's ear fell off into his lap and he then just popped it back on again. Anyway, obviously Gina was slightly traumatised by the whole thing. And the people's verdict has come in. And is Freddie forgiven, yes or no?
Everyone is forgiving. The Cannon family, we forgive Freddie. When you're young and overwhelmed by glamour, you're never going to be brave enough to admit something like that. And you certainly don't want your parents embarrassing you by doing it for you. I'm sure Gina would have been fine in the long run. Kevin in Newton Abbey in Northern Ireland says, forgiven. She survived, had me laughing out loud. And as they say, she was here today and gone tomorrow. But Craig and Filey wins prize of the week for pun. He says, definitely forgiven. I wonder if Gina the hairdresser looked at said haircut and said it looked lovely.
No.
Lobly.
The trouble is...
That's Amiri.
You set such a low bar.
It's so good, so high.
Everyone else is chipping in. Anyway, if we forget what Matt's contributing there to the world of comedy, we would love your confession. Maybe that's inspired you to send in one of yours. Send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Do we do deliveries to producer Susie in the saloon bar?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd like that.
Okay, well, I think you've got your own wine there, probably, I would have thought.
Yeah, I've got a nice bottle of German Riesling chilling for later.
Well, that's not going to go with lamb, though, is it?
Do for me, I don't mind.
Who cares?
I'll have the lamb first. Nigel can tell you what'll go with the lamb, and I'll just drink what I like.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's me told. Okay, so today's confession comes from Sandy. Sandy, thank you very much for sending in today's tale. Another smart speaker done from us. If you've got a confession, by the way, confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Sandy says, Father Simon and the Confessional Collective, I seek forgiveness on behalf of my husband, Keith. We love a family beach holiday in the UK. When our children were small, Keith loved creating beach sculptures for them so they could play in it for the rest of their day. I think we've all done this. While he then lay on the beach, probably wearing a jumper, snoozing or reading. He soon discovered that little colourful plastic spades were not up to the task. So he invested in a garden spade, reserved for the beach and faithfully taken in our car with the luggage every year. As the children grew older, boats, cars and planes were not appreciated so much, so he graduated to elaborate castles with moats, or sometimes a 6-foot hole.
Just a hole. Brilliant.
A 6-foot hole, but with steps leading down to the bottom.
Down the hole.
And what a fantastic thing on the beach that would be. The hole would be roughly filled in before we left the beach to avoid the possibility of unwary passers-by tumbling 6 feet under before their time. This sounds like a jolly good beach holiday, I think. On this particular sunny August day in Northumberland, Keith and our teenagers were delighted to find a little stream trickling down the beach to the sea. They decided to build a dam.
Yeah.
Before long, the dam was well underway with the help of the beach, plus the very large garden spade and several other families who had eagerly joined in with this engineering project. A small reservoir was forming behind the dam, so Keith, chief engineer, organised the construction of a retaining wall to run all around it, creating a vast pool, much appreciated by younger children who were rather intimidated by the vastness of the ocean, so they went for this pool instead. The dam was very effective. The stream was no longer flowing down the beach, and downstream from the dam, the unusually warm sun had dried up all traces of its former existence. The team of engineers took a well-earned break for lunch, delighted with their morning's work and pleased that the pool was proving so popular. It was at this time that a large family group arrived on the beach, consisting of great-grandparents, grandparents, parents, uncles, aunts, cousins, and lots of children. They staggered down the beach with all their beach paraphernalia. We've all seen families like this. They looked around for a suitably large space to accommodate their large group. They were delighted to find a vast, unoccupied expanse of dry sand below the dam that they hadn't actually noticed, and began to establish their camp. They set out their windbreaks, dog bowl, deck chairs, beach tents, cricket with wickets and bats, lilos, towels, water rings, a volleyball net, buckets, spades, kites, picnic mats, picnic baskets. Everyone was covered in sun cream, and when they were settled for the afternoon on the beach, they started on their extensive picnic. Wine and beer were being served, chicken wings and ham from a cool basket, a selection of rice salads, and a variety of dressings. Meanwhile, the stream did not realise that it had been dammed, and it continued to flow, filling up the reservoir until it was at the very, very top of the retaining wall. The family sat, eating their picnic, looking out to sea, blissfully unaware of the catastrophe that was about to befall them and their precarious position. Oh, that was a soft one. Okay. Now, and this is where I have to ask for forgiveness from Keith. I just mistimed the music.
Yeah.
Just like a scene from a disaster movie, the wall cracked. The sand shifted and sagged. Then, just like that moment in the movie San Andreas with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, when the Hoover Dam blows, the entire reservoir breached the retaining walls and cascaded down the beach to the sea, passing right through the family's picnic site and washing away small untethered items, not including children, but yes,
untethered children,
definitely including towels, water rings, buckets, mats, chicken, rice salad, and a selection of dressings. Their elaborate beach plans had been ruined. They had to run around retrieving their vast number of beach items. Excuse me.
Oh dear. So many.
Some of which, I'm thinking of you, flip-flops and the dog bowl, made it to the sea. So obviously I have to seek forgiveness from the waterlogged family for my husband because his actions caused them to have and to face a terrible, hasty and very damp retreat. Their day was spoiled, and also because he failed to warn them of the impending catastrophe. Keith, I should say, says Sandy, claims to this day that they should have been more careful in their choice of picnic spots, and the outcome was caused entirely by their own stupidity. All right, so actually Keith doesn't want... Oh, nice babe.
Smooth.
Keith is not interested in forgiveness, but Sandy here thinks that maybe forgiveness is needed because a very vast family had all their worldly goods washed into the Atlantic. Not that that's in Northumberland, but anyway. Sister Susie goes first.
Oh, I find this one really hard, Sandy, because, you know, your husband, he was committed to helping, you know, not just your children with all these beach sculptures, but all the other children that were on the beach.
And good work.
He'd done really good work, and that family, if it was that massive, should they not have noticed it? I feel like if there was an empty part of the beach and you're turning up late, then it's obvious that there's something wrong with that part of the beach, no?
Yes, I think that's fair.
I just think that's fair. So I kind of, just for the joy that you've given in the first place, I think I'm going to forgive you.
Okay,
yeah,
so it's looking good. Brother, from another guy.
I love the reference to San Andreas with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I was thinking of the Poseidon Adventure, where they've got the massive wave coming over. Gene Hackman's dressed up as a priest, and the whole thing goes
dressed
over.
Up as a priest.
He is dressed up as a priest.
He's acting.
Well, he's not. Gene Hackman's not a priest, is he?
No,
he's dressed up as a priest.
He's just acting.
As
He's
I said,
acting a priest.
Gene Hackman dressed up as a priest when the wave comes over, and I'm staggered by the number of people who go to the beach, and it turns out you get a bit wet, and your stuff gets wet as well. What were you expecting? It's a beach. So, yes, forgiven.
People's verdict, please. Do you forgive Sandy? Yes or no? On the text 61054. You can start your message with Simon or email simon@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. So tonight's confession came from Sandy, but it was on behalf of husband Keith. Built a vast dam on a beach, entertained a lot of children, but when the dam burst, it washed away a bunch of stuff into the sea, ruined a family's day. Here's the people's verdict.
So Roy says, totally forgiven. The family should have noticed the impending flood, so Sandy's husband can't be held responsible. Right. Elizabeth from Lanarkshire says, not forgiven. He didn't own the beach and wasn't king of the castle. It's only a big laugh if everyone's laughing. It's a bit cheeky. And finally, having suffered a similar fate on a beach day, I can't forgive. My favourite beach towel got ruined and I get nervous to go anywhere near the sea now, says Moby.
Moby, okay, very good. So maybe you've got a confession for us, a beach-ready confession, an end-of-term confession, a family holiday confession, a cruise liner confession. If you'd like to exchange it for a smart speaker, send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.